The Magnavox Odyssey released in North America in 1972. It ushered in the first generation of video game consoles and came pre-bundled with a number of games on different cards. On card number 1 was table tennis. Does it look familiar? Well, Atari took this idea and ran with it, profiting greatly on the success of Pong. The fundamentals of multiplayer gaming were established very early on with Pong, and of the many machines Atari produced, one of them, Pong Doubles, offered 4-player gameplay, 2 a side. Symmetric gameplay in video games is natural. It reflects our intrinsic desire for symmetry, and it also results in equal balance, the perfect grounds to test who is the best. Some of the earliest home and arcade video games offered 4-player gameplay, like the Atari 8-bit's Dandy, which would inspire the creation of arcade classic Gauntlet. On the home console front, the Nintendo Entertainment System saw multiple accessories that expanded its 2 controller slots to 4. And over several generations, 4 controller ports became standard on every major games console. So why is it that more developers are creating games with a maximum of 3 players? One high-profile example from earlier in the year is Apex Legends. From launch, it has enforced a strict team size of 3, no more, no less. Since then, a common complaint brought up is the lack of a solos mode. Eventually, Respawn Entertainment introduced this option, but only for a limited duration. It seems that a lot of players realized just how much of the game was built around 3-person teams, which led to solo matches being flooded with players who were grouping up with each other. Apex certainly made waves with its wonderful ping information system and its method of player revival in the Battle Royale format, both of which emphasize its team-focused gameplay. Certain characters also provide benefits to their teammates, such as Lifeline's Reviving Shield, which don't translate as easily to a solo format.
Thank you.
But this does not answer the big question: why 3 players? Well, if we were to speculate, say you're a developer who's designing a battle royale. I know, unlikely, right? You want to create a setup that gives each team the same chance to win as those of other 4-man battle royales. With the same win rates, but for 3-player teams, rounds contain fewer players overall and matches can fill more quickly. Because matches are created much more quickly, this will stay even the most impatient of players. The unusual team size also helps your product to stand out from the competition. Then again, maybe we're better taking it from the source. Press Start interviewed the design director, Mackie McCandish, about this decision. He suggested that the game was built around 3-man teams to make it unique, but he also cited another interesting motivation. If your team is wiped out, you're more likely to win a face-off against a 3-man team than you are a 4-man one. This is perhaps the most illuminating fact. In the age of YouTube and Twitch, where hype and exciting moments can sell games, an increased chance to pull back a big victory makes a huge difference to the game's visibility. Of course, there are many more reasons a developer might opt for this unconventional team size. In a cooperative environment, reducing the player count by 1 can open up conversation, as it's less likely that people will talk over each other. This can help with coordination, which is handy in stressful or competitive scenarios. Rocket League offers 4-man teams, but the mode is dubbed Chaos due to its hectic environment. The game is clearly designed around its standard mode, featuring 3 players a side. In this environment, it's far more likely that players will rotate naturally between the core 3 roles in any moment of a match: striker, midfield, and goalie. There's less uncertainty over whether a teammate will steal a boost pad that you're approaching or hit a ball skew whiff just before you land your shot. The upcoming Rainbow Six Quarantine is inspired by Siege's Outbreak event and leans heavily into its moody horror aesthetic. In a tense, potentially stressful environment, 3 additional players by your side may have been too comfortable. It will be interesting to see how the dynamic between players is handled when it releases. 3-person multiplayer isn't completely unprecedented in the industry. In the days of arcades, the more experimental approach to player setups made 3-player cabinets a slightly more common occurrence. The best way to grab a coin pusher's eye was by making your cabinet seem as unique and enticing as possible, and unusual 3-person setups were certainly one of those methods. It was also easier to cram 3 kids around a machine than 4. Beyond some arcade ports, 3-player titles remained elusive on the home console and PC fronts, with some exceptions. The Lord of the Rings, War in the North in 2011, and the Trine series, which began in 2009, featured this party size. Each of these worked on a 3-class system. If the games were initially designed around 3 distinct characters, brute forcing a 4th player in just isn't very sensible. You can find the same approach in affordable space adventures for the Wii U, and in the Destiny games, though these do offer raids and other content which allow for varied party sizes. In some cases, it can also make the process of designing a game simpler. Oh no! Oh! Okay.
Alright, fuck it, I'm coming down.
Where am I? Remnant from the Ashes boasts an impressive drop-in drop-out co-op system with immediate difficulty scaling. This had to be balanced alongside an upgrade-based scaling system which sees players grow in strength over time, a complicated setup compounded by the traits and wearables that give additional bonuses. The game appears to prioritize scaling enemy health and damage over increasing the quantity of these mobs. This may have been done to reduce the amount of enemy spam in larger areas, and this may also explain why the co-op party size is limited to 3 players. Maintaining balance for 4 players that are all simultaneously becoming more powerful, all while hosting them in some areas that may be too cramped, is a technical headache. There is a good chance that other factors also inform the restriction of player numbers, but Gunfire Games have created a game that scales beautifully with both the individual and with the team, a feat perhaps made easier by the smaller team size. Now that we know the advantages of 3-player multiplayer over 4, the question remains, why is 3-person multi only seeing a rise in popularity now? Admittedly, it saw its roots in the arcades, but in the intervening time these types of games have been few and far between. What change brought on that shift? Well, 4-person titles may have been standardized out of symmetric player versus player titles like Pong doubles, but it's remained as such for a plethora of reasons. Established game design, traditional marketing methods. But I believe the greatest factor was physical. Classic video games often shipped with 2 controller ports, and additional ports were usually sold in pairs. From that origin, it was normal to manufacture consoles with 4 controller compatibility, even after wireless controllers became the de facto standard. It's true that 3-person games have been feasible for a long time, but if, as a customer, you want a system that supports 4 players, you probably want to play the games that allow you to invite the most friends round. However, with consoles like the Wii U and Switch offering the potential for up to 8 players to duke it out, and with the move to digital formats and online play on console and PC, there is now a greater opportunity for developers to experiment with unusual group sizes. Party and fighting games like Super Smash Bros., Gang Beasts, Human Fall Flat, and Runbow allow for up to 8 players. Evolve put 4 hunters up against 1 monster player. Rainbow Six Siege featured teams of 5, and Overwatch is 6 aside. Dota 2 and League of Legends host 5-man teams, and A Hat in Time allows up to 50 people to cooperate online. It gets crazier. PlanetSide 2 lets you join squads of 12. As part of a greater team of nearly 650 maximum, for a server capacity of 2,000 across the 3 teams. The era of digital gaming has given developers an incredible amount of freedom to attempt off-the-wall concepts, ideas that never would have worked on an offline console with just 4 controller ports. It may seem like 3-player games are taking over, but that isn't really true. Traditional 4-player gameplay is not going anywhere. Rather, we're seeing a renaissance in multiplayer games. And it's from this that we begin to see many more unusual, unique, exciting player setups that will continue for years to come.